Good morning and welcome back to our Ask the Agronomist Facebook Live. We are here at our home farm in Alexander, and it is a chilly morning.
Yep, trying to avoid the wind again.
I know, yeah. We keep moving around the tree setup to find the best spot. So hopefully this will work all right.
It's a little brisk this morning.
It is. Which I must have to say, is it ever going to warm up? I mean, come on, it usually doesn't get this cold so quick, does it?
I agree. I think everybody wishes it'd stay a little warmer for drying crops down and everything, but the next couple days sound like they're going to be kind of chilly.
Yeah, well, guess we live in Iowa, that's what we get here. All right, well today we're going to be talking about stalk rot, and basically reasons why not to delay your corn harvest. We've had a lot of guys and gals in the field who are going between corn and soybeans wondering what to do first.
Yeah, I've been visiting a lot of cornfields out there, and guys may think that the corn is, not quite ready yet, but it seems like everyone we've been in that we've talked about that and threshed them by hand, we're like, I think it's further along than what it really is, and once you take a moisture sample, it's low 20s or even upper teens, so right where most guys would want to be, starting to harvest. So trying to make that decision, to wait on beans or, whether you have two combines or not, might be a good idea to go out there and check more fields, but that's why we wanted to reiterate that this morning too.
Okay, sounds good. Well, let's just start with our growing season as a whole. So what were factors this year that have maybe brought us to this conclusion this fall?
Yeah, so the issues we're having right now and talking about because of this, stalk rot, integrity, stalk rot quality, or stock quality, is coming about really because of the season we had. It's all mainly environmental conditions. We had, honestly, a pretty good season. I mean, we had a good pollination time, not a lot of stress there, not a lot of missed pollination period. I mean, and then once we got into grain fill, conditions were ideal. I mean, it was warm. It wasn't, the nights weren't too hot. We had good conditions for a good kernel fill, so that set us up really well. I think from what I've seen, the ears are filling out extremely well, so they're filling out everything that they had a potential kernel to make. And that's also what leads into some of the stock issues, because the ear had plenty of moisture. Once again, in most of our areas we had enough moisture. I know not all, but a lot of areas moisture wasn't an issue. So we had plenty of moisture to get the nutrients and everything into the kernels extra in that grain fill time period. So it filled the ears really well. And what tends to happen on the other side of that, what I've seen issues with on the too much moisture side of things, we have poor root development. We ended up getting high winds and hail, a lot of things like that cause stalk rots to be more of an issue, and just show up in a stronger way. So a lot of those things are kind of encouraging some of the stalk rot issues, and just, the other thing that I forgot to say was the amount of heat we had. We've said that a few times. We're around 10 to 12 days ahead of schedule, and that's, most guys remember this year that pollination was kind of early, and everything pushed earlier because we had so many GDUs and so much heat, especially earlier on in the season. So it kind of pushed things to an earlier maturation or conclusion to the year, which is good. That means our corn will probably dry down, but like I said, we have issues with stalk integrity all over the place, and so this may not be a year to let it sit and come down to 16-17% moisture in the field. So. Okay, let's talk about other stressors that we've had throughout this season. So a few of those, are good up to a certain point. So I already talked about the moisture issue and roots. We didn't have a lot of root development there, so we saw other issues, green snap problems or just lodging issues because the roots were not that deep. There was just too much moisture. They didn't dive deep enough. But then other things that stress the plant out, leaf diseases and insects, foliar diseases. Anytime you take away surface area on the leaf, that pushes that ear to dive down into the stalk. So if it doesn't have the nutrients in the leaf, it's going to move to the lower part of the stalk to crown that area at the bottom of the plant, which is where you don't want to steal all those nutrients. You really want it to stay decently healthy down there to hold the ear up. And the other thing is insects. I've been hearing quite a few reports of corn borer. That's not something we want to hear about either, but corn borer can get in. A lot of times they burrow right into a node, and then they'll burrow into the stalk. But the worst part is when they burrow into the ear shank. So once they burrow through the ear shank, obviously you can have dropped ears and things like that. So all these things you want to be looking for. If you see little frass on the stalk and you see a hole, that's a sign of corn borer. So those kind of things we want to watch out for, because usually once you have corn borer, stalk rot follows.
Yeah.
So they're pretty highly related.
Okay. So let's talk about identification. We have 2 examples here.
Yeah. So the biggest thing with stalk rot is, there's lots of different stalk rots out there, but trying to figure out if you have stalk rot is the biggest thing we need to do right now.
Right.
And so I would say to go out and identify if you have it in your field. There's a couple ways to test it. Number one, see, I cut these off so we didn't have to walk through the mud. But,
Perfect.
you can typically, when you're walking through the field, the easiest way is to push plants.
Yep.
And if they're bending, just like this one did earlier when I was trying to figure it out, if they're bending or creasing,
Yep.
that means that stalk rot's coming into it. The other thing you can do is just bend over and press on the stem, so
Yep.
kind of a pinch test.
Okay.
And so when you have plants like this, and I kind of already cut him in half, but it's going to be really easy to pinch that lower part of the stalk. And once you feel that, you know that there's a weak stalk in there. So I did cut these right at the base of the plant, and they're pretty easy to see the difference here. These 2 that have stalk rot issues strongly coming into them now are almost hollow. So that's why they're really weak compared to ones that are healthy,
Right.
and still very strong and are going to stand for quite a long time. So those are a couple ways to really tell. Just going out in the field, kind of pushing plants around, pulling on them, seeing if they're going to bend or crease, and then even splitting them open. You can see how these stalk rots come right into the nodes and these lower nodes. They usually come up with the amount of moisture we've had in the crown and everything. Some of these may have developed earlier, but we're at the point in the season where it's critical to know whether you have stalk issues in the field or not. So the other quick thing to mention, this is a stark contrast here, but obviously color.
Right.
This one you can pull back some of the leaf sheaths around the stalk, and you can see that there's still green color to it compared to this one, which has is dark, kind of looks moldy, and very easily pinched. So, and you can also see the brace roots withering away,
Right.
Compared to these ones. And
Not very strong, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, these ones are still fairly healthy.
Yeah.
So,
I also think we talked about this a little bit before we went live, but the difference in the ear health is very interesting.
yeah.
Just
So
the
these
way
ones,
that it's all filled out.
we do have, I guess I have them mixed up now, but the ear size, there's the healthy ones, I guess. But the ones that had stalk rot issues, obviously, like I said, some of this may have been poor root development early on that caused some of this. But the one thing I do want to point out, they both have, there's a big difference in ear size here, but even on these ones that have poor stalk quality, there's still a nice ear on there.
Right.
May look kind of small,
Yeah.
but that's still really well filled out, and that's what's causing this. We had a really good year for grain fill, so it filled all the kernels that it could, and what happened was it probably ran out of resources up here and ended up pulling them from down here.
Right.
So causing more loss in quality and integrity in the lower part of the stalk. So honestly, that's really not a bad sized ear for this kind of spindly looking plant compared to those guys.
Yeah. All right. So what about next year? So if you take notes, know that your field has stalk rot. What do you do?
Yeah, so you can go out and identify. We didn't go through identification. There's lots of different stalk rots. Color, even how much it tears the stalk apart can be diagnostic features. All these things. But the biggest thing is just knowing you have it out there. So taking notes, and so you have it by field. You can kind of plan for that. Obviously, there are hybrids that have different, abilities to withstand stalk rot, but sometimes it is just the year, And this year, from what I've seen, it's kind of the environmental conditions that we've had to cause exceptional kernel fill and just a loss of lower stalk quality. So, but just having those notes, and planning that for the next year, and you should always have good notes on your field, whether it's something like this, that you can plan for in the future. Say, okay, 2 years down the road, we did have stalk issues in that field. Let's try something different, or let's make sure that we're on ahead of the game, because we may still have some of that disease potential in the field to harvest it sooner. So prioritizing this year and for the future.
Okay, sounds good. Well, it sounds pretty windy.
Yeah, it
so
sounds like a tornado.
I know. Think we might have to wrap it up for the day, but anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think the biggest thing is, like I said, just prioritize your fields for harvest. make sure you're not saying that the corn's not dry yet,
Yeah.
because even this here may not look like, you know, the ear's not dropped, but I found a lot of fields that are in the low 20s, upper teens that don't maybe look like they should be quite ready. So
Right.
even ones that have some good health to them and green left on the leaves. So
Yep.
just make sure you get out and check those fields while you're waiting on your beans to dry.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you for joining us this morning, and thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Have a good day.